What's going on, y'all? So I'm getting ready to make some new guy lines and just lines in general for my awning here. And I thought I'd share some of the things that I have found that make setting up lines in camp just so much easier to deal with. So a lot of times, when you get a tent or something like that, it's going to come with a guy line, and it's probably going to look something like this. It's going to have these little metal line tensioners included. And the downside of those is that you, of course, have to be able to put this looped end over something. So that doesn't really help you if you have to wrap it around a tree. If there's a tree close by, you might want to tie the tent off to a tree or something like that. So something that I use that makes it much easier to deal with stuff like that, and is just a really versatile piece of gear, and super cheap to kind of keep in your camping kit, is one of these. This is an open-ended line tensioner, and so what you can do with this is you can wrap this around a tree and then wrap it back onto the line itself, and you can still pull tension in the line just like you can with that other one. So I'll show you more of this close up in a little bit. Another useful piece of gear for dealing with lines that just makes setup and breakdown a lot easier and faster and more organized is one of these things. This is a cam buckle or a roller cam for paracord, and what this does is the line can basically be pulled one way. So you pull it one way, it puts tension in the line. If you want to release it, there's this little release here on the side, and that will loosen the line so you can drop it down and take it off. So I'll show you more about that in a little bit too. And of course, you want to have good stakes if you're staking a line out. I have found that I prefer these nail type stakes. I'm sure you've had tents that come with the stakes that are just like a little L-shaped hook, and they're probably aluminum or they might be steel, but they're usually very thin and they bend very easily. These stakes do not bend. You can hammer this into a rock, and the most that's going to happen is the end is going to get dull. It's not going to bend. So there's many different kinds of these. I like the ones that actually have this metal part on them. It's just easier to hook to. And those roller cams that I was just mentioning, you can actually clip that right to this little loop here after you've put the stake in the ground, which makes things a lot easier. But there's a few different options when it comes to these. Some of them have this piece is plastic. Like I said, I prefer the metal ones. And then one more thing you want to have, of course, is a good hammer. So this hammer is just, standard hammer off Amazon. It's got the little claw on one side that I never use for anything. I suppose you could help dig out the stake if it's stuck. And it's got just the regular hammer. And one thing that you do want to have is a stake puller on the other end. So this makes it a lot easier to get the stakes out of the ground, because you can just grab the stake and pull it with this rather than trying to dig it out with your hand. So yeah, those are just a few things that are very useful dealing with lines and things of that nature, whether you're doing guy lines on your tent, whether you're trying to put up a clothesline or something, or you're trying to hang a tarp, whatever. Those three pieces of gear will make your life a lot easier. So as I mentioned, what I'm doing today is making some guy lines for my awning. So I'm going to be using this 750-pound test strength paracord, which is plenty strong enough to tie an awning down. And I'm actually for the main guy lines, I'm going to be using these and not these, but we'll get to these later. So I want to use the black paracord. I just don't love the blue color. It's perfectly fine. I don't know what the test strength on this is, though. I know what the test strength on this line is, so I'm going to use this instead. So we're just going to cut off these end pieces here so I can get to the actual cam buckles themselves. So there we got the two ends. And these are useful because my awning has little loops, webbing loops already sewed into it, so I can just clip these into those. So it just makes it a lot easier. I don't have to, and I'll be able to take the line off. I won't have to leave the line on the awning when I put it away. I can just unclip it and put the line away separately. So Oh, and here's one more thing that is pretty useful, and this is just another type of line tensioner. But I use this usually for the loose end, so this is going to be the end that you're going to pull tension on, and this will keep it from dangling. So, you know, essentially this is going to attach it to the rest of the line, so you can just move this wherever you need to keep the end of the line from dangling, getting on the ground, whatever. So we're going to put this end on, and all we're going to do is just put a little knot in the end. There we go. Got the hook on one end, and since I want it to stay on this end, I'll come back and put another knot on the other end of it so that it'll keep the hook on this end so it's not sliding up and down the line. So now I need to figure out what length line I need. So I'm going to do this loop right here, and what I'm going to do is put a stake in the ground and see how long I need the line to be approximately. You want it to be at like a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to use this one because this is the loop that actually, you can see it creates kind of a V here. So when it's raining, this actually will help pull the water off the awning rather than letting it pool in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a stake in the ground here. Now I'm just going to take the whole reel, I'm going to clip one end up here to the loop. And I'm just going to run it down around the stake, and I want to leave enough so that I have some options. I usually like to come like back up about halfway, and that'll give me some options to, like, you know, make the line longer or shorter if I need to. So we're going to say right about there. It's a little more than halfway, so that should be fine. Grab my scissors and cut the paracord. Whenever you're dealing with paracord, always, always, always melt the ends. If you don't, you will regret it. Even on the end that is still on the reel, you want to make sure you seal them up. Otherwise, it just becomes frayed and falls apart. And do the other line tensioner. So this essentially has two holes in it right there. So you got to put the paracord through one side. So I can get it through. There we go. So it's going to go through one side, and then now I'm going to go through here. Alright, well, so you can see what I was talking about. You can see how the middle of the paracord has actually come out, so it's making it a little difficult for me to get it through. So I'm going to trim the end and melt it off again. Alright, and we're going to seal it up. And if you need the end of the paracord to be narrower too, you can wait for it to cool for a second and then just kind of pinch it. And that'll kind of concave it or cone it a little bit to make it easier to put through stuff. There we go, finally got it through, okay. So now it's gonna go back through here, through the other hole on this line tensioner, like so. And now I'm just going to put a little knot in the end of the paracord just to keep everything in place. So now you can see this is all one piece. So I can clip into the stake, and then I can just grab this upper line tensioner here and just pull it tight, just like that. Now I don't have a line dangling. It's nice and clean. If I want to release it, you know, this does not keep that much tension, so this will just go up and down pretty easily. It's really only there to keep the line from dangling. So if I want to release, I just release the cam here, pull the line down a bit, loosen it up, pull off, and now I can go wrap this up and store it wherever I need to. So there's the stake in the ground. And so here's the reason I like these, because you can just clip it onto the stake. Press the cam, pull the line out. And now I can take the other end, clip it into the webbing loop, like so. And you can see this end is not hanging on the ground now, so really I can just grab this button and then just pull it tight. So now it's locked down there. Got tension up here all through the line. Do not have a loose hanging end. And that also, not having that loose hanging end, will help keep everything from getting tangled up. So when you take this down to put it away, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with. And there it is, all packed up. So, you know, it's not taking up as much space as like a piece of webbing, which is what, or a bigger piece of rope, which is what this came with. And it's not going to get very easily tangled because I have the two hooked ends clipped together. So it doesn't take up too much space. That's why I like to do this. And so as I mentioned about the hammer, here is where the stake puller comes in handy. You can see the stake is in the ground. This ground's pretty hard, so you can just hook like that and pull it right out. It'll save your fingers. And so now, since I said I'd show you these things too, these I don't use in like a setup like this. I like those cam buckles better because I have to tension these lines more, you know, regularly. But these come in handy when you're trying to do something custom in camp, like you know, you're setting up a clothesline, or you're trying to hang a tarp between some trees or something for shade. Or rain shelter. You know, I actually used a bunch of these on a kayaking trip recently because there's a lot of trees where it was a paddle out campground, so we had to paddle in basically, carry all our gear with us, and you know, we needed some shelter from the rain, and thankfully we didn't get much rain, but these things come in super handy. So with these, it's very simple. All you really got to do is put the paracord through the little loop in there, tie a knot in it, and you're good to go. So you can now wrap this around something, and then you just kind of wrap the line through like that, and this is now going to hold its tension, no problem. And if you need to adjust it, you can just unhook one side and then just slide the line through, or you could unhook both sides and just pull it tight by hand and then just hook it back in. And you got a, you know, loop of whatever size you need. So again, I've used these things all the time. I've been using these for years. When I found these, like this is honestly one of my favorite pieces of camping gear. And this is great for any kind of camping, whether you're backpacking, car camping, you know, any kind of camping really, or anywhere you're going to need to hang up paracord for something. This is like, these things are just great, and they're really cheap too. So I'll of course have links to these and the roller cam in my Amazon storefront. You can use those links if you want to, or you can just search them on Google or wherever you want to buy them. Just look for, you know, this is just a kind of an open-ended line tensioner. I don't know exactly what they're called. They're kind of called different things all over the place, but in essence, it's a line tensioner. And then the other thing is just a roller cam for paracord. So if you Google that, that'll point you in the right direction. So hope that helps. It's really, you know, it's a time saver, and it makes dealing with lines in camp so much easier.